So if you think fitness coaches eat chicken and rice 24/7 just to stay in shape year round, let me tell you about last weekend. So last weekend, me and about 100 other coaches spent the weekend in Dallas, Texas, and we went there for a conference called Raise the Bars. The third year in a row I've been there, and it's been a lot of fun. Got to meet a lot of coaches, and some of the coaches that I've spent time with, I've gotten to know really well, and we end up spending the weekend together. We get there on Thursday, we fly in Thursday, and then we head home on Sunday. So we spent about 4 days, probably three nights, 4 days, and so that's a lot of meals eating out. And I'm pretty sure we ate more fast food, more. And I say fast food. Let me rephrase that. We ate probably at more restaurants in a 3-4 day period than we typically do in a month, right? And so the key to maintaining your results long term is finding something that's going to work for you, whether you're home, whether you're traveling, whether you have an unexpected vacation, whether your vacation goes longer. And so you're able to continue to make progress year round. If you're so confined to your strategy where you have to be weighing your food, you have to be, using Tupperware, you're eating out of, prepared, portions all the time, then it's going to be very difficult to sustain that. And yes, that does work for a while. And yes, I do track my calories. And yes, I do, watch what I eat. But when you do that most of the time and you kind of make that a lifestyle, kind of make that who you are, then when you do go out of town or you are spending 3 or 4 days over an extended weekend with people you don't get to see a lot, it makes it much more enjoyable to actually go out to eat, because you know that on Monday you're going to get right back on track to your normal routine. And so on Thursday night, I got in there kind of late. My flight got delayed, and I went with a buddy of mine. We went to Jack in the Box. I haven't eaten out of Jack in the Box in probably a few years, and so that was really good. We ate really late at night. Typically, I try and stop eating, a few hours before bed. Doesn't always happen, but I found that my sleep tends to be a little bit better when I'm able to cut off eating a few hours before bed. But we ate Jack in the Box at like 9:30. We were there till like 10:30 at night. It was what was open. It was what was close to our hotel, and let me tell you, it was delicious. Having a cheeseburger and some curly fries and some tacos late at night, it was awesome. The next night, we went to a barbecue place called Hutchins Barbecue. If you're ever in Dallas, I believe it's in Plano, Texas, which is on the outskirts of Dallas. It is fantastic. I'm from Kansas City, and so I love barbecue, but I love all types of barbecue, and Dallas does it very well. So Hutchins Barbecue is fantastic. We ate so much food on Friday night. It was unreal. It was so good, though. And then on Saturday, we went to a burger place. I'm blanking on the name. It was a local place in Dallas. I have it in my phone, but I can't remember the name off the top of my head. But definitely a place I'm going to go back to. Had another cheeseburger there. Cheeseburgers are delicious. I could eat a cheeseburger every single day. But again, I know that if I do this all the time, then it's not going to serve me well, right? And so back to what I was saying at the very beginning here. When you are disciplined with the way you're eating, when you're disciplined with your lifestyle, when you do fun things like an extended weekend, you can enjoy yourself, right? I didn't worry about what I was eating. Yes, I wasn't going overboard. And actually, I ate a little less during the day on Saturday because I ate a little too much on Friday. And after my meal Friday night, I wasn't feeling very good. But the group I was in, so this isn't I say a fitness conference here. When I say that, I think people assume it's kind of like exercise. We're learning all this. It's actually a business conference. It's a fitness and business conference. And so, but still, these are all business owners. These are all people who either run online companies like I do myself, or they have gyms, they have, in-person clients. And so these are still probably some of the most in shape, the fittest people I am around throughout the year. But while we're there, every single person enjoys themselves. And I think that's the thing. Al Painter has been on my show a couple times here. And we talk about this all the time, that fitness coaches, personal trainers, we get this kind of stereotype that, we don't enjoy cheeseburgers. We don't enjoy McDonald's. We don't enjoy these things. I love McDonald's. cheeseburgers are my favorite food. I love pizza. We have pizza night once a week, not once a night, once a week with my family. But the majority of our meals are very nutritious. We're prioritizing protein. We're getting some kind of vegetable in. We're eating slowly. We're doing our best to stop when we're satisfied rather until full. And Al and I have talked a couple times about how, sometimes fitness coaches are the biggest foodies, right? We talk about food all the time and we love it. We know the best places because we know how good it is. But the better it is, the more we enjoy it, the less we allow ourselves to have of it. And that's kind of the inverse of what the majority of people do, right? If you really like something, if you really like pizza, what can happen sometimes is we feel like, we had a really hard day. It's been a really long week. Past couple of months have been really busy at work. I deserve this. And, maybe you do. Every once in a while, that is okay, right? It's okay. There's a, I think there's a misconception with emotional eating. So emotional eating, if you're not familiar with it, is going to be, I know, when you're stressed, you're overwhelmed, you use food as a coping mechanism. And so you use food as something how to handle some of those things. Some people use alcohol, some people use drugs. Obviously, out of those things, food is going to be the better choice there, but food can still definitely be a problem. And just because, it happens every once in a while doesn't make it wrong. It makes you human, right? It's going to happen. I emotionally eat at times. There are times I know where I'm stressed, I'm overwhelmed, and I will go reach for snacks. I will go order something I don't normally do. And yes, if I did that every single day, it would become a problem, right? But if you're aware of it, if you understand what's going on, then we can move forward with a clear mind, with understanding, the circumstances that this isn't an everyday thing, right? And so this past weekend, I don't get to see a lot of the coaches. That actually none of the coaches are from where I am, and so I spent the weekend with some friends, with other coaches that I don't get to see a lot. So we went and enjoyed ourselves, and it was a lot of fun. And then Monday, when I got back in town, Sunday, got back in town around lunchtime. We got right back on track. That day 2 leads into Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and now we're at the weekend again. And this can happen every single week, right? If you're on track throughout the week, you can enjoy yourself a little bit more on the weekends. But if you enjoy yourself too much during the week, then you have less wiggle room. And so Adam Badger, about a month or two ago, we talked about frequency and flexibility. So the more frequent you are on track, the more flexible you can be when you go to your kid's birthday party, when you go to maybe an event at work, maybe you have a getaway weekend with your wife or something. You can have a little bit more flexibility. But if you are too flexible during the week, then the frequency you're going to be able to kind of get off track a little bit is going to be less, because it's going to be it's going to have a much greater impact on the week, on your calories, on everything that's going on. If you're trying to eat in a 500 calorie deficit and you only hit a 200, 300 calorie deficit, Monday, Tuesday, maybe Wednesday, you ate at maintenance, maybe Thursday, you went a little over. Well, we add all that up and we really didn't move the needle that much. And so now we get into Friday. Now Friday leads into Saturday. Saturday leads into Sunday. And then all of a sudden, we felt like we worked really hard. And maybe you did. I'm sure you did. I'm sure you worked really hard tracking your calories, getting your workouts in. But we weren't necessarily focusing on the right areas there. And now all of a sudden, we stand on the scale Monday, and instead of losing weight, we either didn't lose any weight at all, or we actually gained weight because we were a little too flexible throughout the week. And so when I go out of town, the majority of the time I like to work out. This past weekend, I got 0 workouts in. I was planning on doing one. I got one in. I think my last workout last week was Tuesday or Wednesday. I can't remember if I got one in Wednesday. I went out of town Thursday. I was planning on doing one Thursday, and then Wednesday I said, you know what? I'm not going to be able to get it in because I've got stuff to do. I got to catch a plane. I got to finish up stuff for work. I'm not going to be able to do much. I want to spend time with my kids. I want to spend time with my wife before I'm going out of town. And so I'm just going to skip my workout. And I didn't think twice about it because the majority of the time I'm getting my workouts done 3 times a week at a minimum every single week. And so if I go a week where I only get 2 in, it's no big a deal because I know the next week I'm still going to get 3 workouts in again. And now, obviously, if I was skipping my workouts every single week, back to frequency and flexibility, I'm being a little too flexible. And so the frequency of me skipping those workouts needs to be less and less there, right? But since it only happens every once in a while, it wasn't that big a deal. My buddy Mike and I were planning on going to get a workout in on Saturday night. We were at the conference, we hung around after and talked to some people, and it got closer to dinner time, and we decided, you know what? We're not going to go to the gym tonight. We're just going to go to this restaurant, get ourselves a good burger, and then we'll see from there. We ended up actually walking back to our hotel. It was an 8-minute drive. We caught a ride. It was an 8-minute drive to the restaurant, but it took us an hour to walk back to the hotel. And so that was great, though. We actually got some steps in. It was a little bit warmer. It was very cold where we were. It was we were going to Texas. We thought, yes, this is going to be great. It's going to be so warm, and it was actually in the 20s and 30s while we were there. But the night we were walking back, it was actually very comfortable. And so we walked back. We got some movement in that day after sitting around all weekend. And so we were still able to get some activity in. And that's another important thing, though, is that is something we prioritize. It was only an 8-minute ride. We could have easily got a Lyft or an Uber back to the hotel, but we knew that movement was important. We knew we'd feel a little bit better if we walked back, especially after we just ate a big meal. So in sitting down in a car, that would take 8 minutes to get back to the hotel. And then for us to just go sit down, maybe turn on the TV a little bit the rest of the night before we went to sleep, we walked back to the hotel. And I tell you what, I felt so much better because the night before I had all that barbecue and we got back to the hotel and I ended up going to sleep and I felt kind of sick to my stomach because I sat all day long and then just eating a huge meal. And then again, sitting right after that, it starts to become a problem. And so, but this isn't something, I do all the time, right? I'm getting 3 workouts in a week on minimum. A lot of times I'm able to get more. And so that's 3 strength training workouts in. If I'm getting cardio in, if I'm doing some other things, typically I'm getting 4, 5 workouts in a week. And that works really well for me in my schedule. Now with your schedule, you may not have that much time, and that's okay. If you only have time right now for 3 total workouts, including cardio, including weights, maybe you don't have that. Maybe you don't have 45 minutes. Maybe you don't have an hour. Maybe you have 20 or 30 minutes. That's completely fine, right? You can still get those in, but when you're consistent with those, you can be a little bit more flexible when you're on vacation. Like I said, I'm somebody who typically I book a hotel based off the workout room. And that's something I like to do. It's something I enjoy. But obviously, if you don't enjoy working out, that's probably not your priority when you're traveling. Now, if you're somebody who is not working out very consistently, it's hard for you to get back in the routine. And it's probably a good idea to try and get a workout in when you're on vacation. If you're already having trouble building consistency in your workouts and you've been doing a really good job staying consistent as of late, and you go out of town and now you go a week without a workout, it could very easily turn into 2, turn into 3, turn into we're going to start next month. And so maybe for you, maybe if you're in that situation where you haven't really fell in love with the process yet, then you may need to get a workout in on your vacation. And that might be something that's going to actually help you stay on track long term. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Sometimes hotel rooms have a treadmill, maybe some dumbbells or something. Just get something in, develop that habit, develop that mindset, develop that belief that you are somebody who works out regularly and who doesn't miss weeks working out. If that's something you've struggled with, then that may be something you need to do. The same thing with your nutrition. When I'm on vacation, I try to just enjoy myself. I try not to worry too much about what I'm eating. But during the year, throughout, the other 51 weeks of the year, I'm focusing on getting enough protein in each meal. I'm focusing on my portion sizes. I'm focusing on eating slowly. I'm focused on eating until satisfied, because these habits are the ones that allow me to have success long term. And so that when I'm at Thanksgiving dinner, when I'm at my kid's birthday party and there's a bunch of foods, there's cake, there's other foods I don't eat normally. When I go on vacation and I'm presented with all these food options I don't normally have, I can still have that discipline to stay on track. And yes, I do when I go out of town, when I'm on vacation, I eat more than I normally do because it's not something that I frequently do, right? And so I think that that's a very important distinction, right? If you're going out of town and you're somebody who struggles to stay consistent, you may need to dial it back down a little bit on the weekends or when you are vacationing and just really kind of focus on the things you are trying to learn, trying to incorporate into your life and continue that habit. Just like with the workouts, if you're somebody who doesn't enjoy the process and you go a week without following anything that you're trying to learn, that you're trying to implement, it can make it much more difficult to get back on track when you get home. And so you got to figure out where you are right now. If you're 80% consistent, if you're 90% consistent, then yeah, go enjoy a vacation. Don't worry about the food you're eating. Don't worry about working out. Come back home and then worry about those things. But if you're honest with yourself and you're only consistent, 20, 30% of the time, then when you go out of town, you may need, to focus a little bit more and pay a little more closer attention to what you're doing. And so that you make it easier on yourself to get back on track when you get back home. Because at home, to be honest, it can be a lot harder, but it can also be a lot easier too, because you can build routines. It's very difficult to build routines when you're not at home. If you're somebody who travels for work a lot, that can be very hard to get into a routine. Now, if you have a situation where you're traveling once a week, there's always a hotel, then you kind of have an idea, hey, there's going to be a gym here. It's probably not going to have a lot of equipment, but I know, I can go for a walk. I can use some of the cardio equipment. I can use some of the free weights here. But if you're somebody who, is traveling and is kind of unpredictable, then yeah, that can be very difficult too. When you're at home, if you're working from home, you know exactly what your environment is all the time. If you're working in an office, sometimes someone's going to bring treats, right? If you're a teacher, someone's always bringing something in the break room, right? I remember when I was teaching in person still, it was every single week. Somebody donated something to the school, or one of the teachers would bring something in. They'd always stick it in the staff workroom. And I always had to work really hard, just walk on by. And I remember I was cooking my meals and stuff and bringing them, and people would make comments about, hey, you should, cook our meals for you. And I was like, this is what I have to do. I know that, all these foods, like I was talking about earlier, I love McDonald's. I love donuts. I love these things. Just because I'm a fitness coach, just because I help people with their nutrition, doesn't mean I don't enjoy those other foods. I enjoy those other foods just as much as anybody else, right? I love cheesecake. I love cookies. My wife literally owns a cookie company. She bakes homemade cookies for people. Like, I work from home. She's doing it from home. Of course, that's difficult, but I understand the bigger picture, and no, it's not always easy. I slip up too. A lot of times I try and have 1 or 2 cookies. I'll have 3 or 4 cookies. We order pizza. I try and limit myself to 2, 3 slices tops. There's times where I'll eat 5 slices. There's times where I'll finish my kids and my wife's pizza too, and I eat almost half, or probably more than half, the entire pizza. I struggle with these things too. I see a McDonald's commercial for the McRib. I'm in the car in less than 5 minutes, right? There's these things that I think we have misconceptions here that fitness coaches just don't enjoy. They love chicken and broccoli. A dry chicken breast is probably the worst thing on the entire planet, right? I love chicken. I love eating chicken. But if it's not cooked properly, it doesn't taste very good. And I'm not really big on just forcing things down, right? But I understand that for my goals, from where I want to be, it's important that most of the time, 80% of the time, like we talked about, I'm staying on track. I'm doing what I'm supposed to. I'm getting enough protein in each meal. I'm focusing on nutrition. I'm focusing on the quality of my food, so that when I do go out of town, when I go on a family vacation, when I go spend time with friends at a fitness and business conference in Dallas for a weekend, I can enjoy myself and not have to worry about it.